I have a handout up here. You got a handout. Need a handout up here. Mhm. All right, how's everybody doing tonight? All right, this is week 11. I did send everybody a email. If you have anything yet to turn in up to week 9, which is week before last, just submit your name so you won't. I don't want you to be behind anymore. So if you are behind, just submit your name. A lot of times you did complete something, but you didn't put your name in a lab. So anyway, up to week 9, if you're missing anything, put your name in there so I can give you a grade for it. We are finishing up week 10. Tonight, week 10 stuff is due, which is the preferences app. Week 11 is what we're getting ready to start. And week 11 deals with video. And did everybody get a handout that says My Movie? Your handout? We're going to do it a little different tonight. We're going to skip the presentation and go right to the hands-on. I'm not going to have you fork and clone this, even though there is one out there for this. We're going to create this from scratch, and then I want to look at some stuff though to make sure. Jack, I have a handout back here for you, up here. Make sure that everybody has the right information in front of you. So if you go to week 11, and by the way, next week, well, if we go to week 11, just click on that. I'll get to that in a second. And we go to week 11 task. 11 task. It has in there at the very bottom, final app discussion resources in week 11 task. So click on that week 11 task, final app discussion resources. And then this is what will come up. So these are just resources on tutorials, assignment milestones, GitHub repos for 280, including this class and other classes in the past. There'll be examples in there. This checklist is a checklist. I'll click on that one of what you need to be doing each week. Starting next week, you'll begin working on your app full time. There's a resource at the very top there on my website on testing apps and publishing them. You should have already created your GitHub repo for your website for your app. If you have not done that, you can create another one. If you don't like the one you did, modify it. Schedule some time, 3 to 4 hours a week minimum starting next week for your final app. I will be in here each Monday, but we're not going to have any official lesson or anything. I'll just be here as a resource starting week 12, 13, and 14. So if you want to work at home, I know some of you have Macs or whatever, you can work from there, or you can come in here and work. It's going to be a work time, week 12, 13, and 14 on your final app. If you can't make it in here, you want to work on here another night of the week, you're more than welcome to do that. But I will be in here from like 4:30 to 6 the next 3 weeks, just so you know. So go through the checklist. The other one is making sure the app loads successfully without errors. Make sure it functions properly, whatever functions you have in your app. If you not yet emailed me, by the way, this is on your list. Make sure to email me for help that you need on anything, so I can quickly begin creating those, hopefully between now and next week. It'd be helpful for me if you email me before Wednesday. Give me some time to create something for you as an example. App icons. I've shared a website for that throughout the semester that I recommend. Also, there's a video tutorial out there I've created for app icons. Publishing your app finally at the end of the semester to your GitHub repo. You should be doing that periodically throughout your work and then submitting it. So that's your checklist. Everything else on this page is basically resource stuff for you. You'll also have some links here of prior apps, what students have done prior semesters. In red is things that are really important, like using the above resources, making sure minimum 3 to 4 hours a week coding, or just working on your app. Might not be coding, might just be thinking about it, maybe an hour or two before you start coding. Have others testing your app. I'm more than willing to help test your app if you want me to. So I am available for that as well. So that's the testing portion, or the final app discussion resource. I'll be adding more stuff to that. But starting next week, if you guys can stay right where I'm at on the overhead, but starting next week, I'm going to go back to the home page. Weeks 12, 13, and weeks 12 and 13, the next 2 weeks is optional attendance. Week 14 is mandatory attendance, which is 3 weeks from tonight. That one, we're going to go over a checklist and make sure everything is looking good for your final presentation. So questions on schedule between here and the end of the semester. So this week is actually technically your last assignment that we'll be doing as far as that's due assignment prior to your final app. So I was in the week 11 tasks. The reading for this week goes over movie, using movie AVI. I'll click on that. Movie playback, which isn't a lot of reading, but more of what it takes to create and play a movie. Called the AVI or AV Player, an AV Player view controller. If you've not yet read that, I suggest reading that. No podcast prior to class. I did already have a link to what we're doing right now in the podcast tonight and here. But if you go to week 11 in class, I want to make sure some links are working. The instructions link you don't need to click on because it's in your handout here. Okay. The next one, though, you do need to click on is where it says download images and video. It should be videos, plural. Click here. If you'll click the here link, it should redirect to a download or dropbox.com link. And if you'll click this button here on the overhead on your screen that says download, it should download that to the download folder of your Mac. It's about 60 megs in content. There's 3 videos and 3 images in this zip file we're going to be using for your in-class. Should take just a few seconds to download. Once it's finished downloading, if you could look at me, that'd be awesome. On week 11 in class on that download link. Cool. And so again, what we're creating tonight is very popular in apps where you see a trailer. This is actually creating an app just to watch 3 trailers, basically. And so if you've ever been to an app that shows trailers of movies, this is loading a local native app. Most of those apps that I'm referring to are streaming the videos. You have to have an internet connection to work. This one, you don't need internet connection to work because it's loading all the videos locally. Can anybody think of an app that maybe would need a video local? Or what type of video would you use locally maybe for an app, possibly? Think of types of games like gaming apps. What would you use a video for that for? Or what would a developer use one for? What is it?
Advertisements?
Yeah. So advertisement would be one. What else?
Cutscene.
What is it?
Like a video cutscene.
Yeah.
It was that good of a game.
Good. Anything else? So testing, advertisement, cutscenes of stuff. Anything else you can think of? An intro to kind of talk about the app, what it's all about. That's a good idea. Anything else you can think of for video? That pretty much covers it, right? Tutorial, help, intro, promo, stuff like that. Generally, if it's a streaming trailer app, it's not going to be downloaded to that device, but this is just to show you how to use the AVI player tonight. which is actually pretty simple to use. Now, granted, I say that each week, but it is actually pretty simple to use. The AVI Player app is. It includes your view controller, which we'll do in just a second when we create the app, and an AVI Player controller. And then we've done segues in here. The difference on the segues we're going to do tonight, we're going to use the segue up to this point. We've been using a modal segue, a show modal. This one's just going to be show only. It's just going to do a show segue, which we'll talk about what that is. And so, did everybody get the zip downloaded, by the way, now successfully? Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I have the handout, or I believe I have the handout or the PDF here on the overhead. Let's get that out and look at that real quick before we get started, because I want to jump right into this app. We'll have time to create it. Bless you. When we're finished, by the way, with the here's what I'm going to do for this week's assignment. When we are finished with this in-class assignment, since you're creating it from scratch, I do give you the resources of the video and the images, but since we're creating it from scratch, this is going to count as your in-class and your take-home both tonight, okay? So what that means is when we're done tonight, you should be able to start, if you're finished with last week's preferences app, submitting that, you should be able to start your final app actually this week. Start putting some thought into it and stuff like that. That makes sense? And so we're going to create a single view app. I'm going to quickly go over this handout first. It's only 4 pages, and then we'll go right into it. We'll create a single view app, which you'll notice this semester, I always create most of my apps. In fact, every app I have ever created on the App Store or for clients are always single view. The reason I like single view is I can do whatever I want to with that app after I've created it. I can add a master view, which we've done multiple times with single view. I can add a tab view. We've not done a tab type of app, which those are kind of popular where it's just a tab view. Most of the ones I've created though have been either menu driven, like we've created here, master detail, which are the most popular type of apps. I have created a few tab view apps, like for Stenstrom Petroleum here in town. They wanted a tab view app, but that's about the only client I could think of. Most people like the collapsible, because you have more real estate, the collapsible master detail. But so we're going to create a single view here in just a second. It's going to be called My Movies, Swift, Code, Universal, No Core Data, or Test. It'll be landscape only. Just a heads up, after this semester, let's say when you upgrade to a new version of Xcode, which is Xcode 8, they've changed some things, which they always do. One of the things they've changed is how to show your view in landscape a little bit. But beyond that, everything looks the same. So we'll uncheck portrait though, upside down, we'll uncheck that. We'll just make sure landscape is checked. It's going to be a landscape only app. On the simulate, we'll click on the view controller on number 3 and make sure it's an iPhone 5.5 inch landscape orientation. On number 4, we're going to add for the first time this semester a library link manually. Now, the reason we're going to do that is so we have to have this, by the way, to add the AV view controller. And you'll notice on the screen or on your document on the bottom of page 1, if you look closely on the bottom of page 1 under My Movies, there's that AVKit Framework. You see that? That is what's going to be imported in so we can play the video. Flip to page 2. After we put the AV framework in there, there's going to be that in our workflow. The AVKit Framework will be in there. Then we'll be able to, on number 6, on page 2, we'll be able to add the AVKit Player View Controller, which we've not used yet this semester. This allows us to play video in our apps. We'll also make sure the metrics on that one is iPhone 5.5, landscape orientation. On number 8, we'll add a navigation bar. Number 9, we'll add what's called a horizontal stack view. This helps us line up things on a view, and we'll fill it up on the view controller. Inside of that horizontal stack, we're going to add in a view, which I don't believe we've used yet this semester, just a normal view into the stack. We'll fill up the height of it and then duplicate it 2 more times. We'll add a button on number 11, 3 of them, one per view. Number 12 and 13, the images and the trailers have already been downloaded. The images, the tricky thing on the images is this. Make sure your images, anytime you bring in multiple images, they're going to be on the same view, the same size. That's all you got to know. If they're not the same size, they'll render weird on the view. They'll be off a little bit. So I made sure all 3 of these are the same size, trailer 1, 2, 3, PNG. And then MP4, I put a little note on this one because some of you have done this already on YouTube. You can go to Firefox, and on YouTube, in Firefox, you can go to the plugins for YouTube, or the plugins for Firefox, and search for the download YouTube videos as MP4, and add that plugin to Firefox. And what that allows you to do is, anytime you go to YouTube video, most of the videos, unless they are copyrighted, or some of them will be, like through MGM, Paramount, things like that, you'll be able to download those videos natively to your computer as an MP4. And that's always good when you're using it in an app, or you're using it in a presentation for a class or for a business presentation. You never want to stream a YouTube video. So you can use this plugin to download the video natively. That way you're not relying upon the internet to stream your video, which we've all been there, right? When we're trying to show somebody a video on YouTube or what other type of streaming channel. It gets to the best part, right? We're really wanting to show them whatever, and it sits there and locks up and spins, right? And so this will save your bottom many times. It has mine by just using this nice little plugin. And there's other plugins out there. This is the best one I've found that I've used over the years. Has anybody done it before, by the way, on YouTube?
Not legally.
No, you haven't?
No.
Okay. Well, it's a really cool thing to do. You'll like it, I believe, because you're thinking already. I know some of you like, okay, I'm already thinking some uses for that right now. And so you can definitely download any video. Well, not any video, most videos that aren't copyrighted with this little plugin. So I put a little note on that. So when you do this at home or in the future, you'll have that. And it's not just good for app development. It's good for any type of video that you might use from YouTube. Number 14, we'll create a trailers group, and we'll add in on this one here. We got to be careful. This is why I want to go over this. Before we add in the files for the 3 video files, we need to make sure and check the option to copy items if needed on number 14. Because if we don't do that, what's going to happen is when you guys push this to GitHub, the videos aren't going to be in your source at all. It's going to be wherever you add them, wherever you copied them from on your download folder. Does that make sense? When you click the copy items if needed, it actually copies that MP4 into your project. Same with the images that we'll do next. And it's this little checkbox on number 14. And we do have to click an options button to see it. But once we do it the first time, it's there. So we'll make sure and stop on that one. Number 15, we'll do the same thing with images. We'll add the 3 images. We'll make sure the option to copy is checked. Then those buttons that we've added, we're going to actually use the images on the buttons property. Okay, so these are actually buttons that you're seeing on the overhead for Clifford. Anybody seen the Clifford movie, by the way? Pretty awesome. We'll watch a little clip of it. Expendables 3, anybody?
Yep. So,
Got to see that. What about Bob? That's my favorite movie of all time. But Clifford is pretty hilarious if you've never seen. If you want to laugh, a senseless laughing, that's definitely the one to see. Martin Short is good in everything, pretty much. I think I've seen him in. But anyway, he plays like a 12-year-old, I think, in this movie. So do a control drag. We'll do a control drag from these buttons, which are actually pictured buttons with pictures on them, to the AVI view controller, and we'll choose show. We'll actually, for each one of the identifiers for the segues, we need to make sure the segues are all named differently. So for the first trailer, which is Clifford, we'll name the identifier first. The middle one, expendables, second, and the right one will be third. What about Bob? You'll type in 3 or 2 import statements. The first one's already going to be there for you in the code, the UI kit. Step 20, there is some code here, but I've already done you a favor. If you look in week 11 in class, I should have the code there at the bottom underneath code. Do you see that? So you don't have to type all that in. And all it's basic, we'll go over each one. We'll go over the first if statement anyway. All this code is doing, by the way, is determining which segue was clicked on, first, second, or third, assigning that segue to the view, and then the AV player controller is looking for that MP4 with the same name, which in this case is going to be first on MP4. Then it's going to create a URL from that path, tie it into the player on the destination.player line, and then destination player exclamation point dot play is going to play it on the player control. Same exact thing for segue dot identifier equals to second and segue dot identifier equal to third. Going back to the Word document. Once we've done that, we'll resize the view controller. We'll spend a little time before we do that to make sure everything lines up on the button images. And we'll go to the editor, resolve layout issues, reset to suggested constraints, and we will test it. So is everybody ready? Okay, I'm going to go back to start square one here. And let's go to fire up Xcode on your Mac. And I'm going to close out of this one. I'm going to show you the finished product, what it looks like before we get started. Just make sure Xcode is running. All right, so here's what it's going to look like when we're done. You'll notice from the top, the first view has my movies at the top, the 3 buttons with images, 3 segues that go to the AV player controller. Now let me play it and show you what it looks like end result. We'll play the app. Click on Clifford first.
Well, you tell Stefan. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and we have to get up very early because tomorrow we're going to Dinosaur World.
Oh, you're the bestest uncle in the whole wide world.
I've got some bad news.
I can't take you right now. Take back Uncle Mike. The segue to dinosaur.
That's the first one. Here's the second one, Expendables 3. Whoa. Come on, Joe.
For the last year, we've heard so much speculation about who will be in the Expendables 3 that it's hard to know what we're going to talk about now that the speculation is over. In an official press release from Lionsgate, the studio has announced production on Expendables 3 is now underway, and they gave us a full cast rundown as well. The press release gave us the following. The Expendables 3 will feature Sylvester Stallone.
Okay. Then the last one. What about Bob?
Hello. What? All right. Thank you for calling me. Who's the service? That patient, the one who called before? He committed suicide.
Okay. All right, so that's it. Pretty simple. All right, here we go. Everybody ready? File menu, new. File menu, new, project. And like on your handout, you're going to name it My Movies. Make sure it's single view controller, which it should be by default. Click next. Type in My Movies. Make sure the language is Swift. Devices is universal. Uncheck everything below. It should not have used core data, should not have any of the unit tests. Everybody got that? And I will try to go slow, but sometimes, I go faster. So just Raise your hand if I'm going too fast, and I will repeat what I've just done. All right, so click Next. And on the left side, we're going to click on Desktop and click Create. As it says in number 2, we're going to uncheck Portrait, and we should only have left, landscape right. Notice on number 4 where it says Choose View, Attributes Inspector Simulated Matrix. All we need to get to the view, we need to click on the main storyboard on the left side. Let's click on the main storyboard on the left side, and then click on the view controller in the middle toward the yellow circle selected. Okay. And then click on this icon right here, the one mouse is hovering over, which is the Attribute Inspector. Show the Attribute Inspector. And in here, you should see Simulated Matrix. And we want to select on the size, iPhone 5.5, and on the orientation, landscape. Let me see if I can make my screen just a tad bit bigger here. It's a little better. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger, isn't it? Okay, so everybody have that? So it should be just like mine on the overhead and like your number 3 on your handout. Let's do this to save confusion. The outline view here that like mine, I'm sure yours is doing the same thing. Let's collapse this by clicking on this icon here. I'm hovering over on the mouse on the overhead. Click on this, it'll collapse your icon, your outline, so we can see the view in the middle. All right, let's do a Command S to save what we've done so far. Now we're on number 4, and we're going to add the AVKit.framework. And here's what we need to do that. If you'll click up on the upper left corner of your view of Xcode, where it says View My Movies, the very top name, where I'm highlighted on the overhead in blue, the name of your project, it should bring you to the general screen. And we need to go over to the build phases, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over from the general. And there's one in there these are all 4 collapsed. One in there called link a binary with libraries. We'll need to expand that little triangle like so on the overhead. So again, I clicked on My Movies on the upper left corner of Xcode, went over to Build Phases, expanded link library, then we'll click the plus symbol and actually just start typing in the letters AVKit, all one word. And there should only be one that pops up, AVKit.framework. You see that one? As soon as you see AVKit.framework, double click on the AVKit.framework name. It should add it in the link library now. The link binary with libraries. Everybody see that? You should also see on the left side of Xcode, under My Movies, you should see AVKit.framework right underneath My Movies. Is that correct? Everybody got that? Let's do a Command S to save that. Flip to page 2. Already went over that. We should see the AVKit framework. That's number 5. Number 6, add to the storyboard the AVKit player view controller. In order to do that, we need to click on the main.storyboard in Xcode. And let's take this view that we have in here right now that I'm moving around the overhead. Let's make it go up to the top here. Just click where my mouse is. Click and hold where my mouse is on your screen. Make it go up a little higher. And then what we're going to do on the right side of Xcode, where my mouse is, we're going to click on the Show Object Library and scroll down till we find the AVKit player controller. So it says AVKit player view controller. Looks like this right here on the overhead. You're going to click and drag that right below the existing view controller and then release it. Right below. And click on the top title bar, like I am on the overhead where my mouse is. If you'll click on the top title bar here and drag it right about there where mine is, that would be great. We need to do the matrix sizing on this one, just like we did on the view controller. And that should always still be open on the upper right corner. And the size on this one, 5.5 iPhone and landscape. Then it should resize that accordingly, and we can move that right below the view controller. So you should end up with this here, like I have on the overhead. A view controller on the top and the AV player view controller on the bottom. Do I need to repeat any of that before we go on? Am I doing okay? All right. Let's do a Command S. Now we are on number 8. We finished number 7 on the matrix. Now we need to add a navigation bar. We're actually going to add a title bar to this right here, the view controller. So if you'll scroll down on the object viewer where we just got the AVKit player view controller, scroll down towards the bottom, and I think it's up 4, 5, 6 up from the bottom. And the one we're going to grab is the navigation bar. It looks like this right here. I've highlighted on the overhead. Navigation bar provides mechanism for displaying navigation bar just below the status bar. So let's click and drag that. Click and drag that object, and let's put it right below the battery. And if you take your mouse and click on that title navigation bar and move it, you'll actually feel it snap right below the battery. And you want the blue line to show up in the middle. That means it's centered. And you want it to snap right before the battery, right below the battery. You'll feel it. Like here's mine, it snapped right there. As soon as it snapped, right there, like mine, double click on the word title and type in My Movies with a space in between My and Movies. This is on number 8 here where I'm typing this in. Let's do a Command S. Okay, the next few steps, we're going to be doing horizontal stack. This one's a little tricky, but I'm going to try to go slow. Are we doing okay so far? Okay, so what we want to do is we want to find the horizontal stack in the, and actually on number 9, adding horizontal stack. Scroll up a little higher from that navigation bar. You should begin seeing different types of stacks. And we want the horizontal one. There's horizontal and vertical. What these do is help arrange items on a view a lot nicer and a lot easier when things are side by side. So since it's going to be a side by side type of image buttons, we're going to use a horizontal. So click and drag the horizontal stack view in the middle like that on the overhead. And then take the little boxes on the corner of that stack view and fill up the view right below. You want everything filled up like this on the overhead. So right below the navigation bar, to the left, to the right, and to the bottom, all filled up. And then do a Command S. And this is what we're going to actually do with this one on numbers 11 and 12, or actually back, number 10 and 11, we're going to add views and buttons. First, we're going to add a view and then button. So if you'll watch me on this one, I'm going to try to go slow on the view, but I want to make sure everybody's where we're at right now. Everybody have the stack view and you've resized it? You've saved it? Okay, cool. So if you'll scroll down to the bottom of our object viewer, there is one of the objects named just view only. Towards the bottom. It's actually second up from the bottom, called view, represents a rectangular region which draws and receives events. Now, here's the cool thing about a view, and you'll see in a second. A view is literally like a view controller within a view controller. So we're adding 3 views, and each one of those views can do a number of different things. We're just going to play a video or launch a video from that view. But it could be, that's where you probably see on phones where you see like widgets on your phone of time and stock market and calendar. Those are all views within a view. And so what we're going to do is take this, this view and drag it over to the left side right here where mine is. Just drag it over to the left side here and then release it when it gets to right where mine is, and release it. It'll force it up on the upper left corner, or it should, if you put in the right one. But you'll notice it's not quite tall enough, right? The width is fine for us, but the height isn't. So what I'm going to do is take the bottom box, bottom middle box, click and drag it down to fill up the height of that view, and then release it. All right. Went all the way down to the bottom. And you know you filled it up, by the way, if when you go to the bottom here, if you look on the overhead, see where I have the blue line showing up vertically and horizontally? If I go up a little higher, see how the middle one goes away? So make sure you can click on that little box again to make sure both lines show up. The cross shows up. Look at me when you've got that done before we go any further. Make sure everybody's there. All right. Are we ready? Okay. Now we're going to click on this object that we just added, the view, and do a Command D twice. What it's going to do is duplicate that view to the right of the one we just had to the left that we're on currently. So it ends up with 3, and it fills up the entire view, because that's what a stack does. Okay, it immediately fills it up, and that's what we want. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a button and put right in the middle of each one of the 3 views. So scroll up to the top of your object viewer and down a little bit and find the button object, and just click and drag the button into all 3. Now make sure when you click the button in here or drag it in here and drop it, make sure it looks like this one on the overhead. Again, the blue line showing up vertically and horizontally, meaning it's centered before you release it. If you didn't do that when you released it, just click on it again and start dragging it until those lines come out. So do that with all 3 of the views. Put a button right smack dab in the middle like I'm doing. So you should end up looking like this on the overhead once you're done. You should have 3 buttons right inside of each one of the views. Walk around, make sure everybody's all right. Good, good. Come. Running this way. Okay, let's see what's going on here. What am I have you do then? Is that you come up online? All right, good. Once you come up online, since yours that no, I'll have you come drive mine if you don't mind. Is that right? You'll be fine. Sure. Oh yeah. Okay. So his was locking up back there, so I'm gonna have him drive mine. So we're gonna have a seat. Okay, so we have the 3 buttons on there. Now, if you look on your handout, the next thing we're gonna be doing is we've already done lines 12 and 13. We downloaded the images and the MP4s, and I believe it should be in your downloads folder of your Mac. Let's just make sure of that. If you'll click on the Finder on the lower left of your Mac, the little Finder face, let's go to your downloads and make sure they're in there. Mine's in a different location, but yours should be in there. In fact, if you go to downloads for me, if yours is like mine on the overhead, it just says archive.zip. If you double click on that archive.zip for me, it should expand it and put it into an archive folder. Expand that archive folder, and then that should be all of the images, 3 images, right? And 3 MP4s. Is that correct? All right, so just remember that. Now let's go back to Xcode and flip the page, number 14. We're going to create a group called trailers. In order to create a group, you control click on the movies, the very top of Xcode of your files, movies. control click on movies like he's doing and go down and create new group. And let's call this one trailers with a caps T. Trailers with a caps T, as it says on number 14. As soon as you type in trailers, just hit the enter key or the return key on your Mac. Then you're going to do a control click on that trailers group, and you're going to do an add files to my movies. Click on that. And you'll need to go to your downloads, archive, and oh, that's all right. If you click on, just go ahead and control click on that and delete. If you did it by accident, no big deal. Hit remove reference. Do it again. So control click, add files. Now this time what you want to do is find the folder, the downloads folder, and I'll just do a command click on each one of the, we're doing the MP4s only. Command click on MP4s only. Yep. As soon as you click all three, now this is a tricky part, click the options button on the lower left of that form. It says options. Here's where you're going to click the checkbox, copy items if needed. That's an important part. Okay. Then once they're selected, click add. And we should see now, if you click on each, click on like trailer 1 for me. Click on trailer 1. Look on the right side of your Xcode. The path is going to be to the full path of your desktop where we save this at, where it should be. That's how you kind of test to make sure it's right. Got it? Now let's go and click on, control click on movies again, the top movies again. We're going to add another group. This one is actually on number 15. It's going to be called images. Hit return. And do the very same thing you did with movies. This time, though, you're going to only input the images, the 3 images. And again, you can use a command click key, the command, and then click on each one of the images that you need. And only the PNGs. Yep. And check options just to make sure. It should remember from last time, but I always check. Then click add. Good. So what we've done so far is we've added the, and let's go through all the images to make sure they show up. Always do that, just one by one. And they're all the exact same size, by the way. Make sure they are. Okay. Now you'll notice on number 17 or number 16, it says we're going to take those buttons now and we're going to add the images to those buttons. And here's how you're going to do it. If you click on the main.storyboard, click on button 1 on the left, and on the right side in the properties, okay, one of those properties is going to allow us to select the image that we just had, which is image 1. It should be image property. And we're going to select on the image property, click the drop down there, and select image1.png. And don't worry about sizing yet. Just do that on the very next 2, and we'll size in just a second. So button 2, do the same thing. Yep, trailer 2. Button 3, image trailer 3. Now, click on each one of them just to make sure that they're the same size. They should be because the image is the same size. We should be okay. The problem comes in is when the images aren't the same size. That's when things mess up. But we should be good. We shouldn't have to mess with anything. The only time you ever have to mess with stuff is if the images are off on each one. And so here's what I suggest is, it's not on your steps, but when you're creating images for your app, I think in one of my tutorials I show you how to use pixlr.com, pixlr.com, remember? That's the app, my go-to app for anything images. So just make sure all of your images are the same exact size. So next thing we're going to do is, once the images are all added to the button, we're going to control click drag from the button to the AV view controller and select the show segue. So go ahead and do that. Right here. Yep. And click show under action segue, show, and do that for the next 2. So control click show on all 3. Okay. Now what you'll have to do is take the AV player view controller. You guys will have to take the AV view controller, drag it down a little bit, click and drag it down a little bit to where you can see the segues. Click on each segue, and the segue is going to have to be named according to the first, second, or third. So if you click on the left one, which one's that go to? The second one. So if you go to the identifier The identifier for that one's going to be second.
Just what-
And make sure it's all lowercase, the word second. And keep, so you guys will click on your segues once you drag them and did show. So click on the middle one. That's the first one, so that's going to be first. And then last one. Make sense? So make sure all your segues identified. And the reason we're doing this is, just like when we did the master detail, we're only doing a view, but you can use segues on anything. This will determine in just a second what videos load according to what segue has been clicked on. That's all we're doing here. Okay, we're labeling each segue. Everybody good? Did you repeat anything? All right. So let's do a Command S to save what we've worked on thus far. And let's see where we're at on the steps here. Okay, we did a control drag on number 17. We did the show command. We named the storyboard identifiers, first, second, third, right? Number 19, we need to do two import statements, the import AVKit and the import AV foundation. The way we're going to do that is click on the viewcontroller.swift. Viewcontroller.swift. This is the very top of your code, underneath UIKit, import UIKit. Underneath, go all the way to the top. Right underneath the import UIKit.
I'm not even.
Right here. So where your import UIKit is, put your cursor there and type in what I have on that line. On number 19. So you can type in import AVKit and import AV foundation. The word import is lowercase I. It's on your handout on number 19. UIKit's already there, so it's just import AVKit and AV foundation. As soon as you start typing in AV, you'll see foundation pop up. Just click on it with your mouse. You don't have to type the whole thing in. I'd hit enter again just to give you more space there. Let's do a Command S. So make sure you've done those two imports. Without the two imports, it's not going to work. Okay, so not only, just because we brought the AV foundation in and we brought the shows in, without the two imports, what we're getting ready to do next isn't going to work. Next, if you flip the page, number 20, you have to type in all this code. No, you don't. You're just going to go to the 11N class. Let's go to the 11N class, which I have mine up there on Chrome. Go to the 11N class. Towards the bottom of that N class, underneath the word code, is all that code you'll need to copy. There you go. As soon as you copy it all, let's do a Command C. Go to View Controller, and before the right last bracket, the very right last bracket, put your cursor. Yeah, right there. Go ahead and paste now. So before the right bracket is where you're going to put this code. And what this code is doing is, and I already talked about earlier about a recap, it's catching the segue from the buttons, right? 3 buttons, which is first, second, and third. Now, if we named it, this is why it's crucial on the naming. If you go to the very top of that segue, compare segue, here, where it says if segue equals to first, that's where the syntax really matters. That's why I had you guys do first, second, and third lowercase. The other thing that's going to matter is the naming. I named all the files here. I've got trailer 1, 2, and 3. You'll notice trailer 1 is for identifier first with an MP4, and it matches trailer 1 on MP4. Go to the second F segue. Same deal on that one. Trailer 2, MP4. And by the way, we've done this. We did this in the PDF lab. That is the same library for documents we're using for this one to determine where things are found. Third one is, again, the third segue, looking for that bundle path. And by the way, just like in the PDF, anywhere in your project it looks for it and finds it, that's fine. We just put the folder in there to be nice and organized. So trailer 3 MP4 on that one. And each one of these is going to play it in just a second. So let's do a Command S. Make sure there's no errors. The only reason you should have errors if you copied maybe the word code or something above from the website. Now let's go back to the main.storyboard and scroll up to the top view and click on the word View Controller and the little yellow button should highlight, which means we've selected the view controller. Now we're ready to do number 21. Just do what it says in 21. Go to the editor menu, resolve auto layout issues. Yep. And reset to suggested constraints. Okay. Now you can go ahead and do a Command R and test it. If everything's was bound right and coded right, we should be working fine. As soon as it loads, you can go ahead and test button 1, 2, and 3, which will be trailer 1, 2, and 3. You can turn the volume up on your Mac if you want to, which is up on the top row of your keyboards. The volume control is up near the delete key is where it's going to be at. As soon as it loads, it should render portrait, and then it should go landscape like his on the overhead. Once it goes there, you can go ahead and start clicking on the buttons to see if the videos are playing. Yeah, sometimes on that first one it does that. On the first one it kind of slows down. You guys can just hover over, hit done, and come back and do it again. Yeah, it sometimes takes some time to connect.
Is it cut off? Like, never mind, it's not. It looks just like there's more space here than there.
Do what now?
Maybe because that's what we.
Yeah, you can actually work on resizing those. Now, let me think here. We don't need to do that one. It won't allow us to do the resolve light ocean, but we did do it on this one. This one, though, if you look on the overhead, on mine, these are off a little bit. So I told you earlier you didn't have to resize mine, but I did. We want to make sure these are kind of in the middle of the view. So we did need to do some cleanup on the button, it looks like, on mine. And you guys might have to do the same thing too on your buttons. Make sure that the height and width is good. It should just match up with each other. Okay, and we'll do now let's go and play it again, see if it works. And if it doesn't work, we have to look on the names of the video, but we should be kind of looking at. I didn't have you guys rename everything. Go ahead and hit the play button. Let's click on these to make sure they're working. Okay. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. The identifier didn't stick on his, and it might have happened on yours too. Make sure if you go back and check your identifiers to make sure that they actually stuck. His was gone. The way those work on identifiers is tricky. When you type it in, you have to hit the return key. Otherwise, a lot of times it'll clear it out. That's what it was.
Mine didn't automatically go landscape, so I had to go into the hardware and
Do what now?
Mine didn't automatically go landscape, so I had to turn it.
Oh, let me see. Let me see your, go ahead and stop. And go to my movies. And go to general. Uncheck portrait. You didn't do that.
Thought I did it well.
That's all right. That should hopefully fix it. Sweet. Yep, you're welcome. So we're working now, once the segues are down, should be okay.
Now it's messaging more.
Go ahead.
When I click on it, it was this.
Make sure your views on the same one. You know what I mean? Did you go to your main.storyboard? And make sure this is set to the same on the, got landscape, good. Go to the, go to your info.p list, because you checked that earlier, it probably messed it up. Click on that drop down and delete anything that's portrait. And yeah, let's save that. Let's resize everything. Go to stop on that. Go back to your main.storyboard, and let's make sure all your buttons, like I do on mine. There's a little, see the little boxes? That you don't have to do that. We just have to do the right one, I think. On each one.
I like it.
The right middle, I think. Yeah, I think so. Do the right middle.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, bring that in. And that middle one, let's bring it over. Yeah, let's do the rebind again. Do the resize.
So, yeah.
Make sure to click on the view controller first.
It's also having tracking issues too, like every once in a while. Like,
Yeah.
It's like jumps.
And if it's still not working, I'm guessing that's something to do with the fact that we didn't check that portrait right at first. We can look at that. Go up to the top on your hardware. No, go back to where you were before you go to hardware. Now go to the hardware. To the right. Now go done. Nope, just there, just here. Just hover over, hit done. Okay, hit the next one. Okay, that's what I think it might have been earlier when you were playing with it. It might have done it. Might have messed it up.
That makes all right. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Anybody else need help? Sweet. Good. Maybe over here. Resizing your buttons. Yeah, that's good. Now you just have to do, that was pretty good. Now let's go up and let's do a resize, the auto resize. Click on your, should be better now. Oh, much nicer. We'll click on one, make sure it's working for you. Awesome. Good job. How are you? You all right? How we doing over here? Okay, yeah, your buttons have to be resized like I have. So hit stop. And go to each one of the buttons. We'll start with the left one. Start with the very left one. Click on that button. That looks good. Click on the right one. Let's drag it over a little bit to the middle. Perfect. Click on the right one. Looks like you just needed to click on the view controller. Let's do the editor resizing again. Might not have done that. Now let's go ahead and play it. Those actually look pretty good. Okay, go ahead and stop it. Make sure your segue identifiers are in there. So click on each segue. Now go to your view controller. Very good. Now let's go ahead and do a product clean and a product build. Anytime you guys make a major change, by the way, on your code and you know it's working or should be working, you can do a product clean, product build. Will a lot of times clean things up if you find it's not working or it should be working.
It's something to do with how I implement
Okay.
files.
Click on stop, and click on the main.storyboard. And what I want you to do is click on the view controller. All right, now click on the player to the right. Should be up to the right. You have to scroll over. The AV view controller. Click on that for me. All right, now click on each one of the segues. I want to make sure they're a show command on. Okay, good, good, good. And let's go back and click on one of your trailers. Make sure one's playing, like play button, make sure it's playing. Okay, good. Go stop it. I'll go ahead and hit the main.storyboard. And let's go ahead and go to the first button for me. Second button, and go back to where you were. I'm just checking here. Okay, second, it's third, good. Everything was good. All right, let's go ahead and run it again. And let's try the third one this time.
Did I possibly ruin something about the grouping?
No, not unless you scroll down for me on that, because I don't know. Let me get there if you don't mind. I don't see anything different with it. Can't tell by looking at it though. Anything wrong?
I put everything on my USB drive.
Did you source it from your USB drive and copy it?
Yeah, it's all sourced from USB drive.
Okay, that might be a problem then.
The files are inside.
Yeah, I won't run that way on the local. So it has to be on your desktop. So that's why. So I won't look at it. That's why it is. You're sourcing it from your USB drive. The videos have to be locally on the computer. All right, good. Get it? Yeah, what I'm going to do is actually with that one there, I'm going to package it because I haven't pushed it to my GitHub or anything. So I'm going to package it and push it to you. I'll send it to you and you can use that. Okay. You get yours working? Okay, make sure your segues are working. Click on stop on each one. Click on the stop button, upper left corner of Xcode. Go to the main.storyboard and let's click on your segues one at a time. Okay, you're missing your identifiers. Remember I told you you have to type in the word first and hit enter. Otherwise it's not going to save it. Do the same on the other two. I'm guessing they're gone as well. Yep. That's what it is. Yep, got control R it again or command R it, and should work now. Now the segues are in. Oh yeah, working great.
Are we presenting that on the last class?
Yep, sure are. Yep. And if you hover over and hit done, it'll go next one. Perfect. Awesome. Good job. So recap on this one real quick. Couple things. One is when we put the images on the buttons, making sure that they're resized accordingly. And I told you they didn't need to be resized, but these did a little bit just to make sure they fit the right dimensions in each side of the view. That was the first one. Then after you do that, make sure and always do a resolve auto layout issues. The other one was the segues. When you click on a segue and type in whatever the segue is, you have to hit return key to save it. Next one was, I believe that was it. Those two things there. Oh, I know what it was. On the front end, making sure that the portrait is set to unchecked, landscape only. And I believe that was about it. We had an issue in the back where he's trying to stream from a USB. It just takes so long to load things from a USB. That's why it doesn't play well. It works better on a local. Then you can move it later to a USB for moving sake. So here's what we're going to do. If there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and go to the file menu, make sure we can't save anything, meaning everything's saved, and go to exit the Xcode menu and go to quit Xcode. And whoever was back here to help me up here or took my computer over, what I want you to do is this. If you'll minimize, and only he needs to do this, if you'll minimize everything down to your desktop on your computer, let's stop this real quick. Just a second.